Welcome to Living Chassidus. Together, let's live the Chassidus we learn.
The soldiers they untied the boots of the soldiers. The Arab legions untied the boots of the soldiers. Why? They took away their shoelaces. Why? Because they said, "Is it work here? I have to put it on."
It
works better if it's over here.
Yeah, especially with the basic.
I want to fall over.
All
Right. That's a new. I never heard that one. So
I'll do the introduction after.
So they untied the shoelaces and they took away the shoelaces. Why? Because they didn't want that they should run away. Because where are you going to go without your shoes? And what happened when Israel took the Golan? They found a whole bunch of empty shoes. Because they took off their boots and they ran away. When the Jew stands up, when the Jew puts himself out there, and we saw it with this war, the more who took the shoes? The Arab soldiers, the commanders of the Arab soldiers took, because they know that these guys are cowards. They took away their shoelaces so that they shouldn't be able to run. They should stand and fight. When the enemy comes, they should stay. Of their own people. Because they should stay. Because they've been through this before. Right? One war after another. And they saw that they're cowards. Why? Because when the Jew stands up, you look at Esav and Yishmael, it says did tshuva. Now, how do you explain what's going on in the world today? But the beater of Yishmael is finished. People don't realize this. When did we have trouble?
So nowadays, the Arabs really
are also bottled. There's no such thing as real descendants. I mean, it could be. So this I didn't hear, but it makes sense. So if you look at the struggle that the Jews had as a Ramban, the Ramban said all the tzaras that the Jewish people have for all of Gullus, the Gullus that we are currently in, and really going back to the very beginning, all of our Gullus, which ultimately we're now in the Gullus of Esav, but we had many Gullus, and we had the Gullus of Persia and Madai, the Greeks and the Persians, and we had Bavel, and we had Egypt, but ultimately all the Gullus that the Jewish people have, that Ramban says, come from the Parshas Vayishlach. What happened in Vayishlach? Yaakov came, and he was coming to meet his brother after 22 years, 21 years, I think. And what did he do, and what should he have done? What did he do? He sent all of the gifts in front of him, and he sent all of the women and children in front of him, except Rachel, who kept behind him. Yosef went in front of Rachel. And then when he came, what did he do? What did Yaakov Avinu do to Esav? Who remembers? Before he kissed him and before he hugged him. Bow. Bow. What did he say? What should he have said, and what did he say? What does bowing say? Yeah, he called him Adaini, my master. What does bowing mean? The Rebbe once, there was a famous story. The Rebbe was once walking on President Street, and there was a neighbor of the Rebbe, I think not a Lubavitcher, and they once asked the Rebbe, I don't remember all the details, but they once asked the Rebbe, how come every time you walk by, there's a certain guy who lives on the block, and every time you see him, you give him a big smile, and you wave at him, and every time you pass by me, I don't get such a smile. What is it? I don't understand. Why is it that you're giving cover to the goy and not to me? Or why are you giving cover to him? I said, I can understand that I'm not that important, but why are you smiling at this guy? And he says, no. When I pass by you, I do. He says, I tip my head. And he says, I've never once in my life bowed my head to a goy, to a non-Jew. To you, I tip my head. This is the Rebbe to a Jew. He's saying he's tipping his head. He's bowing. He's humble. Moshe was the humblest. He's humble in front of a Jew. He's not humble in front of the goy. We know your husband. I said with your husband, one of your husband's favorite. I think the first mimer I ever heard your husband chazer, and it might be the first mimer he ever did chazer, was Bar Yardu Allah of the Sinai, that the Sinus about the Putitayt about how a Yid has to have Shminis of Gaiva. A Jew has to have a certain level of pride. Gain Yaakov, we talk about the pride of a Jew. You can't be a Batman, you can't be a Shmata, and we know that nowadays. So anyway, so when the Rebbe bowed his head, he was being made, he was acknowledging, he was being humble. Yaakov bowed to Esav. What was he saying? He was humbling himself and saying, I know I took the firstborn. I know you're upset at me because I took the firstborn, but really, you're still the firstborn. Really, it was just a game. It was on surface level. Really, I bow to you. Really, you're the one who's on top. And the Ramban, it's a painful Ramban that you read it, and the Ramban says, this moment, everything in Torah is intentional, but a Jew is his own worst enemy. Every moment in Torah is eternal, and especially when you're talking about the Chumash and Bereshis, and especially when you're talking about Yaakov Avinu. Yitzhak had Yishmael, had Esav, and Avram had Yishmael. Yaakov Avinu, his whole bed was perfect. All of his shvatim. This is the Jewish people. So how much more so was this moment fundamental and pivotal for the Jews' oisgang in Eilam Hazeh, the way he's gonna, and we know that's the period of Esav, because that's what we're still involved in. Yishmael did tshuva. It says Rashi that when Yitzhak was being buried, when Yitzhak and Yishmael were burying Avram, Yitzhak and Yishmael buried him, it says. And it sort of said Yishmael and Yitzhak because Yishmael was older. And Rashi says that teaches us that Yitzhak went first. And why did he go first? Because Yishmael did tshuva. And it ultimately says he only did tshuva while Avram was alive. And after Avram passed away, it says Nafal be'echav. He fell back among his brothers. But he did do tshuva. Esav never did tshuva. Yishmael did tshuva, and then he fell back into being a shvantz. So he's a shvantz. He's not a force to be reckoned with. He's a, forgive the word, I know you're supposed to, he's a shmate. He's a nudnik. He's annoying. And that's what the Arabs are to us. They're nudnikim. They're annoying. But when you stand up to them, they fall away because they were mevareh. Esav was never mevareh. Ultimately, Rivka Imenu wanted, she knew that Yitzchak, that what Yitzchak couldn't accept. She knew. Stama Yitzchak knew, but Yitzchak was a father, and a father loves his children, a mother loves her children. But a mother, Esav, she knew who he was and what he was up to. Yitzchak, he was blinded. We know he was blinded. There's many explanations. He was blinded to the truth of Yitzchak, of Esav, which is why he wanted to give Esav the brachas, because he said Yaakov is for learning Torah. I'm not taking brachas away from Yaakov. I'm giving Yitzchak his own job. Ishsoder. Esav's job is to be involved in the field. He didn't want to give the curse of the field to Yaakov. Yaakov should sit and learn Torah. We all know this. Going out to make a living, going to be involved in the field. I took my kids to the farm today. It's Aveda. You come back and it's not simple. It would have been a lot easier to sit in base medrash all day. So Yitzchak didn't want that for his son. He didn't want that for Yaakov. This is Esav's job. Esav is a wild man. Let him go to the field and work in the field and be a meshugene. Let him be Reuven Dunin before he did tshuva. So he says, let him do this. Let me give him the brachas of the field. But Rivka knew that what happened when what ultimately happened to Esav. Who knows the story? Who knows when he passed away? The story is in Saita. There's a couple of different versions of the story. But one of the versions is that Esav came to stop them from burying Yaakov in the Mount Machpelah. Because he said, I sold my birthright. I didn't sell my chelik in the kever. There's Arba Zugos. There's 4 plots over here. Adam and Chava, Avram and Sarah, Rivka and Yitzchak, Yaakov, and who? Leah. Leah was buried there. So he says that one of those plots was mine. I didn't sell that plot. I sold only the birthright. So when they were on their way, this whole entourage got stopped. And there's one guy in the back, as they're having a whole din Torah over here. And there's one, and we know Esav knew how to come up with svaras opiteri. He says, I like to tie the salt. And he told his father, let me go catch you something good, the gediyim, and I shecht it for you. So Esav was tying, this is mine, and he was coming up with good svaras. So there was a guy in the back who didn't know how to My brother's name is Dan. And ultimately, Dan is Daniel, but I like the story because his name was Dan. And my brother Dan, I think of my brother Dan. Dan, Chushim ben Dan. He was the grandson of Yaakov. He was Chushim ben Dan. Chushim ben Dan didn't hear well. Chushim ben Dan was deaf. So he's trying to hear what's going on and he can't figure it out. So he starts asking them, what's the holdup? And they start explaining to him. So I don't know how much he did or didn't understand and how much he just decided, I don't have time for these photos, but he went, and there's two different gisois. One is he took a stick and the other one is he took a sword. And whap, he hit Esav. And he hit Esav's head and Esav's head fell off. And where did it go? The Machpelah, right? Who's been to the Machpelah? You have over there a tzion. It's very cute. You have a tzion over there that says there's one of them says though. First of all, they're all the joke.
There's like 5 of them that say that here's where.
In the actual Machpelah?
Yeah.
Could be, but there's definitely one of those big boxes with the green on it and the Arab letters and the sign and everything. It says Reish Shel Esav. I don't know if it says in Arabic, but in Hebrew it says Reish Shel Esav. It says the head of Esav. The head of Esav rolled into the kever, and where did it go? Into Yitzchak's lap. It says it fell into his bosom, into his chest. Fine. So,
Where did the rest of his body?
So 1 second, where did the rest of his body go is a good question. But what the Rebbe asks a question. The Rebbe says, there's a din in Torah that a tzaddik is not allowed to be, a rasha is not allowed to be buried next to a tzaddik. It's a halacha. And where do we learn it from? There's a story. Forgive me, I don't remember which part. I know you girls came a little later, but if you grew up in the system, you learn Tanakh, right? So the girls know Tanakh. The girls know Nach more than the boys. I don't remember exactly the details, but there's a story in Torah during one of the wars where a rasha fell, and he fell right next to the cave of Elisha Hanav. Elisha was the student of Eliyahu. And when he fell, there's a halacha in Torah that a person who falls in war acquires his spot. Someone who dies during war is kind of makayme. That's his burial place. So he died, and it says the Eibishter made a nest, not the Novi made a nest. The Eibishter made a nest, and it was Mechayim Mason. And the guy stood up and walked the Arba Amis and fell back down and died. Why? Because he's not allowed to be buried next to a tzaddik. So the Rebbe says, how could you have Esav's head buried in the lap of Yitzchak Avinu? It can't be. You can't have. Esav was a Rasha Merusha. We know about it. He was a complete Rasha. So the Rebbe says the head of Esav was not a Rasha. The head of Esav was okay. Seichel of Esav was okay. The problem was he took that Seichel and he connected it to what? He connected it to the Fakrepta body. He connected it to a behemoth. And when he connected it to the behemoth, it got drawn down. And the Rebbe says this is what the mother Rivka knew. Rivka knew that when the head was attached to the body, it's not going to have a chance to do the birurim because it's going to get stuck. We know the difference between a man and an animal is that a man walks on 2 legs and an animal walks on 4 legs. People like to say the difference between a man and an animal is that an animal doesn't have intellect and a man does. A man is smart, or a man can speak. Let's say that. A man has dibur. But animals have dibur. There are many animals that are very, very smart. I even heard that they're working on community. They've gotten apes that have spoken words. And there's dolphins. And I just saw an article the other day. No, you could talk to your dogs?
It's on the floor. They push the button and it says the words.
See? It's not deeper. It's not communication. That's not what makes us unique. What makes us unique is that the head and the heart are on different planes. An animal is very, very smart. A dog can be very smart. Dolphins are brilliant. Whales are brilliant. Monkeys use tools. But the mind is on the same plane as the heart. When you walk on 4 legs, the mind and the heart are equal. And the mind serves the heart, not the other way around. So the mind, a dog is very, very smart. But a dog smart can only serve its heart. The dog is called kalev in Hebrew, which means kula lev. The Zohar says, a dog says, have, give. Now, I grew up with dogs, so I got to be careful whenever I start getting onto this schmooze because my mother gets very nervous. I start insulting the family dog. and you start insulting. Why are you insulting them? Not that they're stupid. You're insulting them because you're saying that they're selfish. They are selfish. They're selfish in love. Love can be a very selfish thing. Avram was so selfish that he couldn't, forgive me for using this word, he couldn't let go of Yishmael, which is why we ended up with all these tzoras. He davened to the Eibush that Yishmael would survive. Right? He couldn't let go. It was misplaced love. So a dog has lots of love, but their love only serves.
But why did Yaakov bow then if he's not?
Because he's a Jew. And a Jew has this inferiority complex. A Jew has this, I'm not there yet. I'm not holding there yet. He is Tiferes and Emes, but Tiferes and Emes is Rachamim also, mercy. And Tiferes and Emes is Rachamim comes down, it's the Kavim Tzoy, it's rooted in the highest, but it comes down to the lowest. So through that Rachmanis that he had on his brother, what did he do? He hugged him and he kissed him and he felt bad for him. I'm not a Makubal. I don't know what the Rebbe, I don't know what else the explanations are, but I can tell you what the Rebbe said in the Sukkos. The Rebbe didn't explain why. But the Rebbe did say that through that bowing to Esav, that's when we ended up with all of this trouble. And that's what the Ramban brings out, that he bowed. So anyway, so coming back for half a second, that the mind and the heart are on the same plane, that the Maila of man is that his mind can rule over his heart, right? And so when a person's mind can rule over his heart, so that's the Maila of Yaakov. That's the Maila of an Odom. Yaakov is called Odom. He's called the Ishtam, Yoshev Oyel. And Esav was a behemoth. Esav was a wild man. And you put his head onto that body, he was like an animal. And his mind and his heart were on the same level. And his mind could only serve his heart. He came up with Sfaras to try and explain to his father why he was a good Jew. And ultimately, what was he doing? He was involved in all sorts of taivas. So anyway, so Rivka knew this, which is why she said, no, the brachas need to go to Yaakov, because Yaakov's job is to mevara the world, which is why when they met, and maybe this is why he bowed. He says, when they met, Yaakov says, I did it. I did my job. What did he do? Where did he go? He didn't stay in Eretz Yisrael. That was Yitzchak. He was a perfect carbon. He wasn't allowed to leave. He wanted to, and they said no. Yaakov left, and where did he go? He went to Choron. He went to Lavan. And what did he do there? He didn't sleep and he didn't eat. He was busy making parnasa. It says a fire was burning by day and a freezing cold by night because he was busy trying to make a living. He was busy chasing around the kinderlach. He was busy trying to not get, I don't know how you say it in a nice, not get screwed by his father-in-law. That's really what he was trying to do to him, right? And we know that ultimately, because he had faith and he did things right, Rabbi Paul Thiel says a good word. He says, he says, I have a good friend who is a very Chassidish businessman. And he says, as far as businessmen go, he's the most Chassidish there is. And he told me, Yossi, how do you make a living in business? You take everything it says in Torah and you do the opposite. That's what he said. Forgive me. Thank God I'm not a businessman, believe me, because I would not be very good at it, because I'm very not, my wife's going to laugh in case she gets a hand of this video. I got to tell this story. We once went to Eretz Yisrael when I was first married. And we didn't have money. And we were trying to, she was always looking for a way to make a few extra dollars. And someone offered us a few dollars to take a bag, full of American clothes. You sell blue jeans in Israel. You go to Russia, it's a lot better. But Israel's not bad. Right? I made a Baruch Hashem. I never lived in Israel long enough that I had to buy clothes there. Anyone lived there long enough, you actually had to buy clothes there? It's brutal. Certainly not undergarments. You don't buy real clothes in Israel. It's terrible. Because American clothes are much better. So you don't buy them there. So someone offered us money, $100, to take a suitcase. It was one of these huge duffel bags full of blue jeans and whatever, American clothes. I was on Sukkos. I'm telling you, because when they asked me if I packed this bag, I was like shaking. It's thank God we went from America to Israel, because in Israel, those Israeli post-army girls that run the security, I would have lost my pants. I would have lost my bowels. I promise. Where Hebrew? I'm like, I don't know. I don't speak Hebrew. It's like terrifying. It's women. Anyway, so Baruch Hashem, we're going from America to Israel, and they didn't think twice about it. I'm so straight. So to make a living in business, you got to be straight. And Yaakov, how did he ultimately not get screwed by Lavan? Because he did it right. He just kept his head down and kept doing the right thing. And what does he say? The Eivshter says, and he tells his daughters, Lavan's daughters, he tells his wives, I'm only here because the Eivshter took care of me. Why did the Eivshter take care of him? Because of Yishtam. Because he behaved himself. If he didn't behave himself, if he started playing Lavan's game, I'm sure it wouldn't have worked out for him. I promise you. So anyway, so when Yaakov came, he says, I did it. I went to Olam Hazeh. I did your beer. I involved myself in the world and I did it. Let's go to greet Mashiach, which is why he did what? Right? He sent, you guys didn't do Torah Avenue yet. You don't have kids in the car? You know, okay. I was worried about what I'm going to say and I realized, we can sing the Gunim. And I realized I'm used to the minute. You can sing the Gunim in half a minute to think. So anyway, the Torah Avenue, right? He sent the Malachim. What was he doing? He was sending them to see, is Asa ready? I did the bitter. He should be ready to go. And that could be why he bowed. I don't know. Maybe. But nonetheless, he bowed. And when he bowed, what did he do? He caused Soros Tsururis. Now, don't worry. Your parents also made mistakes, right? Everyone, they say the firstborn gets double because all the mistakes your parents made with you. Metz Hashem, anyone here does have kids? This is mostly a non-married crowd yet. Metz Hashem in the right time. It's a good time, Simchaseinu. But in the right time, you'll see that when you become a parent, you realize that everything you thought your parents knew, they didn't have a clue. Because you are totally freewheeling and totally making everything up as you go, and you don't have a clue what you're doing. And it's very reassuring. It's very reassuring. Because you turned out okay, and so the time your kids will turn out okay, but it's very cute. So one of the reasons that the firstborn gets double because all the mistakes your parents make. So anyway, so Yaakov Avinu, you can forgive him for making this mistake. But nonetheless, he gave us the job. Now what's the job? Now we're in Golis for the next couple 1,000 years. We're in the Golis of what? The Golis of Eden. Who's our Golis? Our Golis is Esau. Who is our struggle against? The Rebbe spoke in the Sichos where he says, your next door neighbor, Johnny and Michael. Right? I didn't grow up in Crown Heights. And where I grew up, forgive me, and this was the American Golis, and this is the end of the Golis Eden, that this is the final beater. I grew up where Yataka wanted to be like the Goyim, you think. The Goyim were nice people. They were respectable people, right? They had a picket fence and a house with 1.5 kids and a dog. And you wanted to fit in. I grew up in Texas. You wanted to play football. Baruch Hashem, I was never any good at this stuff. I might have never ended up in yeshiva. Like, I was actually good at this stuff. I might have been cool. So, and who knows where I would have ended up. But around here, Baruch Hashem, I'm happy to raise my kids here because I'm not worried about them being interested in what the neighbors are. Forgive me, because my neighbors are not enviable. But in general, who were the neighbors of the Yidden in general that we had trouble with? Where did how much intermarriage do you know among the Ishmaelites? I happen, Midian. I happen to have a great aunt. I remember my Bubby's sister years ago was in America. She married a black guy. She married a black guy and moved to Arizona. But Mistama, I don't think she married my neighbor. She married the same kind of black guys that my neighbor. They were nice people. They were respectable people. She married into who did we have intermarriage with? In Russia. Who was in Russia? Russia's the Western world, the Western people. And we had biggest problem was the Ashkenazi Jews. The biggest problem, Ashkenazi Jews in Spain. I'm sorry, not in Spain, in France, in England, right? In America, in Australia, in Canada. This is where we had trouble with intermarriage. Why? Because there's sparks in it. There's sparks in Asa. There's refinement left to be done, which is why the guy is attractive, because there's actually kedusha there. It's very stuck. It's very deep, and it's klipa. And Teda says you shouldn't get involved, but that's also why. The Gadim. Where did the Gadim come from? How many Gadim came from Yishmael? Gadim didn't come from Yishmael. The Gadim came from the white people, from the Western world, because there's sparks there. So this is going back to what we said before. Yishmael is not an enemy. Yishmael's a shmata. He's a nudnik. If you stand up to him, he disappears. But who are you really standing up to? You're standing up to Esav. You're standing up to the Western world. When you stand up to the Western world, that's Esav. When you stand up to Esav, then everything falls in line. And so this is what the Rebbe said, going back to Yehuda and Yosef, that Yehuda needs to know when you go to stand up against the what do you call it? The Mishnah Lamelech, the king. Who are you standing up against? Who are you standing up against? You're not standing up against him. You're standing up against yourself. Because who is really the one in charge? The Jew. And as soon as Yehuda stood up, what happened? As soon as Yehuda stood up and said, Bi Adoni, listen to me. I'm here and I'm not giving up. I had a brother and my brother got lost and they were doing tshuva. We sold my brother. We lost my brother. And my father has been crying ever since. And I'm not going to do it again. That's what he says. Yelep ben Yamin, go. Take me. I'm not giving up a Jew again. He stands up. And when he stands up and he says, we're not going to do it again. We're not going to bow down. We're not going to be our own enemy. We're going to stand up. What happened? Yosef revealed himself. Yosef couldn't take it. Yosef revealed himself to be that the Baal Abayis is who Yosef is. A Jew was in charge all along. All we had to do was stand up. And when we stood up, you see that we're really the ones in the street. Which is the story of Yaakov and Esau. Which is the story where we ended up in trouble because Yaakov didn't stand. Yehuda did a shtickle tikon, he did stand. And that's the story of Edom and Yishmael and the whole Yiddish Agolis that we've been going through. So Be'emes, I don't remember honestly how we got into all of this. It's appropriate to talk about because Yosef is our Ushpitz tonight, and this is the avodah of Yosef is to not bow down. The avodah of Yosef was to stand up in Golis, go into Golis and not be afraid. And that's also the Reb Marash and Fatchila Aribbe that maybe we'll discuss for a few minutes, but I think we're long overdue an introduction. I feel like I was meant to stop and let an introduction go. I'm going to make a bracha. So please. I got to start over. Now I got to start over. Oh, last thing. Where do we come back to? I was mentioning this guy because he brought Josh Rubin here. We have a Beis Din because we were the original Beis Din of Living Chassidus way back when. And Josh Rubin put up a mezuzah on the Palestinian office. Josh Rubin put up a mezuzah on the Palestinian office. The same way that Rebbe said, I'm sorry for saying it 3 times, and Sharon knows this. If there's a Chabad if there's a Christmas party, if a Jew is there should be glad kosher, the Rebbe said. Because the Jew doesn't bow down, no matter what the external circumstance is. A Jew doesn't bow down, which is what we're doing on Kingston Avenue, by the way. What are we doing on Kingston Avenue? We're not bowing down. We're not bowing down. We're lifting up. We're lifting up the street. The Jew doesn't bow his head to a goy. A Jew lifts up. I'm sorry. He doesn't. He bows his head to a Jew. He acknowledges the Jew in the office. He acknowledges the Jew at the party. He acknowledges the Jew in the sukkah, and he says, "Okay, the Alter Rebbe says sushi's not roy lechidus b'nei adam, but Jews like sushi. Eat the sushi. Acha brocha, kosher sushi. So tie it all together. Believe me, say that you can connect anything." So anyways, we'll make a bracha. I'm going to hear whatever we have to say, and we'll hear what we're supposed to talk about tonight, because I'm not sure. Anyway, Baruch.
Welcome, everybody. You've already been welcomed. I wanted to, this is part of SAI, one of the Farbrengen of SAI, which means that these wonderful ladies did their page of learning, and they did their journaling at least once a week.
Okay.
And I want to say a big mazel tov. They earned themselves. Oh, here's another one. A foldable, compatible folding stender.
And a mazel tov. My son didn't break this one, so he only fell off the chair himself.
So it's another piece. So here I'm going to show it on the camera. It's not on the camera. Over here on the camera.
There we go.
There we go. It's a stender that is compatible and it folds. And I remember when I had my oldest, my Leivik, I asked my husband for a stender because I wanted to beautify my place where I would be adopting from this point forward. So here is for everyone to have a sender, their scissor to learn. Yay! For the wonderful women I'm about to say.
Tati's gonna
So
sponsor
a mazel tov to Yosef Ford Eisenberg, to Chaim Matasav, Michal Miller, Esther Citron from Hershkovik, Esther Malka Cohen, Ariel Zuckerman, Shelby Aronson, and Adina Lapine. Thank you so much for all of your hard work, everybody. Also, I want to say that tonight's event is for Refuah Shlema for Amit Shmuel Ben Edna. Him and his whole family should have only brachas this year. He should have a Refuah Shlema and be healthy and well to be there with his family and his children.
Amazing.
Yeah, only brachas. And we have the great Sukkos of having Rabbi Schechter. He has been a part of our family since probably I was a part of the family.
I said we don't credit you with the shidduch, but you were very involved in facilitating the shidduch.
Well, you were afraid. He's my husband's best friend from yeshiva, and
you got this on video.
Yes, exactly.
You have to show it to all of our other friends.
And he's also both Sava and him and his whole family are our family here at Grand High School. So to have you guys and to be a part of each other's family. So yeah, Baruch Hashem. That's unless honestly somebody said to me, someone posted because Rabbi Schechter is a PA at ODA. Well, that's a lot of whatever.
A lot of Risha Davis.
Anyway, and he is our.
Anybody know?
I do.
I have no idea.
I don't want to.
Okay. So anyway, he is also a Reifi Yedid. As the Rebbe always spoke about having a Reifi Yedid that really has your best interest at heart. And Rabbi Schechter is the person who we call for our best interest at heart. He saved my Levik's arm when he had a broken elbow. He has saved so many of my children at different times, and we're so there's not enough thank yous in the world to thank you for that. But when someone said to me, "What do you mean? He's our family doctor. He's a Farbrengener." I said, "Actually, I wondered how he became a doctor. First, he was always a Farbrengener. So I always thought you'd end up in the Klei Kodesh, and you're in Klei Kodesh just with a different instrument." Baruch Hashem. So there's the introduction.
So back to our regularly scheduled programming.
Yes.
I think there was a topic, and I did have a few thoughts on that topic. So I'll share with you a few thoughts on that topic. But first, we'll make a bit of time. And this is the appropriate, what do you call it? The appropriate the appropriate skeda, the appropriate merchandise for such an occasion. No. I want to actually get out of here tonight. I have another Farbengen I'm supposed to be at. But that it's appropriate because it's about the Farbrengen, it's about the dancing, which is actually a beautiful thing. Because if you look at this bottle, I remember I don't want to call anyone out. I'm filming, making me nervous. But I was once by I'll put it this way. So if you know, you figure it out, and if you don't know, at least I didn't say it openly. I was once in Mayanot over here years ago, and we were sitting late in the afternoon on a Shabbos afternoon, and we were having a Farbrengen, and a certain someone walked in, happens to be a Rosh Yeshiva in a certain yeshiva in Eretz Yisrael on a certain street that used to be David Yellen. So anyway, you can figure it out if you know, and if you don't know, I didn't say it in public. And he walked in, and I remember he knew he was in town, but I learned a long time ago not to bother such people. When he was around and he made himself available, I was happy to help. Happy to join. And I always tried to help him if he's in town. I once gave him a ride to Williamsburg, and it's one of the best experiences I ever had. I schmoozed with my son in Yiddish. I'll tell you, very good stories over there. But anyways, he came in, and we were very happy. We were very happy to have him. We're gonna, after they turn off the camera, I'll explain what ODA stands for. So he came in, and we offered him to make kiddush. He said, "Did you make kiddush?" No. We offered him to make kiddush, and we gave him one of these bottles. And then he starts looking at the bottle, and we're thinking, "What's wrong with the bottle? Like, this is back in the day. It was too big, but it didn't. That was one rabbi, it's another rabbi." I thought it had to do with the heksher. Nothing to do with the heksher. He says, "Ashayla, kiddush." I said, Exactly. The shaila whether halachically it's considered wine with such a small amount of alcohol. Now, I'm sure if there's such a ashgacha from the Beis Din of Crown Heights, which has been reunified, wonderful, that you can make a bracha on it, you can make kiddush on it. But nonetheless, it's a beautiful thing because the ikr is the Farbrengen. The ikr is this is teiche kabare. It's the inside and the out match. Because it's about the Farbrengen, it's about saying l'chaim. We have a good friend, Sharon and I have a good friend that says when you say l'chaim, no one pays attention to how much you drink, but they notice if you don't put the cup to your lips. No one's asking you to get shik. No one's asking you, speaking to girls, I don't know what people do and don't ask you to do, but certainly I'm not, that no one's asking you to lose your kalim. They're asking you to get involved. Now this is a little easier to get involved because it tastes like grape juice. But when men sit in Farbengen, if you like alcohol, you're at the wrong place. If you like drinking this awful stuff, you're in the wrong place. You don't belong in a Farbrengen. You belong in a bar, and you're not there yet, and that's fine because we already spoke. We have a newcomer, so I'm gonna say it again. I'm gonna get in trouble. If you have a Christmas party, if you have a bar, some Jews need to be in the bar, and there's sparks there to be in. You and I and such people shouldn't be in such places. But anyway, this is a good thing to make a bracha on because the ikr is written right here on the bottom. What's it all about? It's about dancing. It's about simcha. It's about a Farbrengen. It's about, like you said before, what was his name? Amit Ben Edna. What a Farbrengen can accomplish, even Malach Machal cannot accomplish. So l'chaim, and make a bracha. A few minutes about simcha. So l'chaim. Baruch atah Adonai le'olam. So back to what I actually had in mind to say today. You're supposed to start. This is the beginning of the Farbrengen. Fast forward to the first 45 minutes. The beginning of the Farbrengen is supposed to be. I don't remember where I started, and I don't remember where I followed my own rules. The beginning of the Farbrengen is supposed to start with the story of. That's tonight in the Sukkah. We can talk about the Baal Shem Tov. We can talk about the Shpizim. We can talk about Sukkos and Simchas Shveva. But what's the first thing you're supposed to do by a Farbrengen? You're supposed to start with a story of. Anyone? Mrs. Weiss knows. No. You're supposed to start with a story of not the Baal Shem Tov, not the Rebbe. You're supposed to start with a story of a chassid.
That's what I said.
I didn't hear that.
Yeah,
I thought a chassid. Good. You're supposed to start. You're supposed to. You're supposed to start with the story of a chassid. Why? Because a Rebbe's story. Who bought that book? Who got very excited about Chassidic stories and he went and bought the book, A Treasury of Chassidic Tales? Or for that matter, any Chassidic book of stories. How inspired were you? Forgive me, right? The stories never live up to the ones you heard by the Farbrengen. Am I wrong? Anyone read the Treasury of Chassidic Tales?
Yeah, but nobody's buying that these days. It's like
when I was around, that was the only book that there was to be bought. Forgive me. But what are they buying now?
Amazing stories for kids.
Is it good? Oh, that's a good one, actually. That's stories of Chassidim. You have stories of Rebbe's there. You have a lot of stories. The new one has stories of 7. It's how they came up with it so fast. Anyways, it's wild. It's very impressive stuff over there. Anyway, so the reason you're supposed to start with the story of a chassid is because a chassid you can relate to. A story of a chassid is something that it says every story of a chassid is a Yetzias Mitzrayim. It says in Ayom. Because a Rebbe is l'chatchila, not in Golis. Which is why when Yosef HaTzadik was in Mitzrayim, like the Yidden weren't in Golis. They weren't in Golis until the whole Zeicher of Yosef was gone. As long as they remembered Yosef, there was no Golis. Because as long as the king, as long as the prevailing culture, and for that matter, the Jew who related to them and rode on the coattails, remained under the sail, the shadow, the wings of Yosef HaTzadik, there was no Golis. So every Jew who lives in Golis is in Mitzrayim. And going out of Mitzrayim is a story of a chassid. That's why the Friedrich Rebbe says, a story of a chassid is a Yetzias Mitzrayim. The only difference is the Rebbe, the Friedrich Rebbe says very beautiful. I want to say it's like a Talmud or something. That he says the only difference is Yetzias Mitzrayim was Oisbrechen the Teva, breaking nature, And Yetzias Mitzrayim of a Chassidish story of a Chassid is Ois Welt in Welt. It doesn't break the world. It lives within the world, but it transcends the world by living within the world. The world doesn't get destroyed. Halavai, when we stood up, the whole Mitzrayim, the whole Lebanon, the whole Gaza, the whole Syria, the whole Iran would just fall over and burn to the ground. It could happen. But at the end of the day, it doesn't. We still have to fight. I know I told cool stories and exciting stories about how they ran away, and they do. There's also, unfortunately, still stories about people who don't make it. There's stories about the drones that are coming in and caught this one and caught that one. They're very few and far between. I heard a beautiful word actually from another droner's son a couple of weeks ago, right after Iran shot their rockets. How many of them got in? It's very impressive. Nothing. The second time, okay, a few. The first time, basically nothing. It was right at the same time, we shouldn't know, at the same time, there was a terrorist attack in Samaria. And we shouldn't know, 7 Jews lost their life. At the same time. So he said, you see the truth of the Rebbe. The Rebbe says what? The Jew who didn't bow to Iran, Iran can't touch us. The Jew who bowed and gave up the Shtachim. Why are the Goyim there? Why are there Arabs there? The Shtachim, the Rebbe screamed. Gaza. What was going on there? Gush Katif. There were Yidden there. Why are there Bechlal Shkosim in these places? Because we didn't listen to the Rebbe. And we didn't stand up for ourselves. So when you don't stand up for yourselves, that's when the Jew can get hurt. Anyway, so the point is, Oisveld Infeld. You still have to fight within the world, but you go throughout the world, transcend the world. So what's the story of the Chassid? The story of the Chassid is like this. The story of the Chassid is that there was once a Chassid who was named, anybody knows? Take a guess. I promise you it's not going to take long. Try again, a little bit more. Very good. See, it's going to be the first or second one. The story of Reb Mendel. Doesn't take long. And Mishnah could have happened with Shmuel Mulkis, but this one happened with Mendel Futerfas. The story goes that Mendel Futerfas was by a not a Farbrengen. He was by a Asifa. It was a gathering of some communal matter in Kfar Chabad. And at the community, he was sitting in the back. He was sitting in the back with another chassid. Forgive me, I don't remember who that chassid was. When you hear the rest of the story, maybe it's a good thing. So he's sitting in the back, and they were discussing some communal issue. They were discussing some political, city, municipal, I don't know what it was, governmental issue. And this chassid had knowledge of the matter and had relevance to the matter. And the Stama had maybe Heirois from the Rebbe on them. I don't know exactly. And Reb Mendel starts nudging him. And he's pushing him. And the guy is like, and he's saying, no, Zog. And the guy's, Zog, no. And he doesn't speak. And at the end of it, it didn't work out very well. Whatever the story was, is that it didn't go the way it should have. And the people didn't hear the words they should have heard. So when they were leaving, Reb Mendel let him have it. And he said, what's wrong with you? You had to speak. Why didn't you speak? And the guy says, I wasn't in the mood. Mendel says, mood? It's a mood. What's a mood? He never heard such a word. He knew the word, but he never heard of such a concept. What does it mean you're not in the mood? You got to speak. If you are not in the mood, forgive me, I was on the way home a little while ago from the farm, and I was trying to think of what I'm going to have to say tonight, and I wasn't in the mood. Someone called me on the way home the other day with a medical question, and last night was the same as tonight. I promise you, every car trip on the way there is one thing, on the way back is another. And Baruch Hashem, when you live in New York, everything's at least an hour drive. So we were on our way back, and I got a call yesterday from somebody, and she's telling me about a headache. And she's asking me, what does she do? Is it a problem? Is it not a problem? Is it dangerous? Is it not dangerous? Does she go to the hospital? Does she take Tylenol? And at first, I tried just telling her I was in the car and I shouldn't take the phone, because when she answered the phone, she tells me that she has a headache. I said, good, because otherwise you're going to get one just being in the car with us, because my baby's screaming and crying. I wasn't in the mood, but I had to think about it anyway, because this is what we got to do tonight. I signed up for this before I signed up for my Cholavoi trip. I didn't know at least what the trip was going to be. So, so what happened? Oh, so the Mendel says I'm not in the mood. So the question becomes, it's very easy to be in the mood when you have sushi. It's very easy to be in the mood when you have expanded sukkah of living chassidus. New exciting. Who was here last year? This didn't look like this last year. I was here last year, and I was stuck in a corner over here. I wasn't sitting with the women. I was, sitting listening to who knows. Huh?
Expand the house.
Oh, made. I mean, this is a whole bunch. This is a whole bunch of people who are potter from the sukkah or sitting in the sukkah doing a mitzvah nonetheless. Very, very cool. So, anyways, the question becomes: Zman Simchaseinu. The time is the time of joy, and it's not only. The Rebbe says, "What's Sukkos? Why is it called Chag Sukkot? Not Chag Lulav, or Chag Etrog, or Chag. What else could you call it? The festival of the harvest, right? They could call the festival of the harvest. Many different things you could call it. And the Rebbe says because it's a chiyuv of sukkah the whole time. It's the first obligation because when sukkah comes in by night, you have an obligation to sit in the sukkah. The Farbengen isn't until the next day, and everything else you have to do on sukkah comes later. And the same thing that Rebbe says about Purim, the same idea about Simcha, Purim, the joy of Adon Yoda is all the time. And that's why it's the main mitzvah. So the mitzvah of Simcha on Sukkot, what does sitting in the Sukkah have to do with Simcha? Simcha paid its get, breaking out of your boundaries. It's spoken about the Ushpizin. Ushpizin come, when do they come? Come on Sukkot. I had news for you. They come also on Pesach and Shavuot. What's the problem? They're stuck outside. They can't get in. Okay, for half a minute you open the door by Pesach and you see Eliyahu Hanavi and says, "Wait a minute, I want to bring in the rest of them," and you close the door. So the Ushpizin, it says that they come by all the Yom Tov, but we only find them, we only greet them on Sukkot. Why? Because you got to go outside. You got to go outside to access that symbol. You have to go outside of your comfort zone. You have to go outside of your home. And you have to make the outside like it's your home. You have to behave as if you belong here, and you're going to elevate it and live with it. And you're going to sit, and you're going to bring, and you're going to eat, and you're going to drink, and you're going to speak, and you're going to talk, and you're going to learn, and you're going to sleep for those. Because that's where you're going to draw that simcha by going out of your comfort zone. So sometimes, though, and this is what I wanted to say, this is the tagline, is what if I'm not in the mood? So the reason I bring it up is because sometimes we all know someone who knows someone who knows someone whose roommate is sometimes not in the mood. When it comes to sit down by a Farbrengen, when it comes time to learn, when it comes time to give a shir, when it comes time to lead the Farbrengen, believe me, I'd be much happier sitting. Huh? You can. Just make sure he ends up. Let me know. So we'll pick him up, or I'll come get him. Yeah, you can take him. But you have to. You're taking achrayas. Good.
He's in the mood.
Good. He's in the mood. Mendel doesn't know the opposite of mood. His mood is always this. And we learned Mendel is not only a name, it's also a verb. What's Mendel up to? He's Mendel. He's doing something. So the time of Sukkot is a time to go outside yourself. And that's where the Simcha happens. I wanted to share with you not what the problem is, because the problem is all too well and good. We all know the hang-ups that we have. We all don't have to struggle to find the times that we're not in the mood. So Sukkot is the time to fill up on going outside of your mood, going outside of your comfort zone, going outside of your, I'm not up for that. Why? Because I want to go to sleep. Why? Because I want to sit inside, because it happens to be this year, the Amish is very kind. The Amish is kind every year. He showed it to us in a revealed way. Right. Last year it didn't really rain on Yom Tov, but the whole week up to Yom Tov, and I was trying to build my sukkah for the first time in my new house. I didn't have a plan yet, and my drill broke because you're not supposed to use power tools in the rain, but I had no other choice because it was pouring every day. So Abish is being very kind to us. He's giving us a very wonderful, but it's supposed to be a little uncomfortable. It's supposed to be a little bit hot. It's supposed to be a little bit too cold. It's supposed to be a little bit uncomfortable chairs or the bench that fell over. The other day I ate in the meal and there were holes in the benches. It's good. You're giving me an exit strategy just in case, If I drink too much mashka, I'm going to fall through the hole in the bench, and then I gotta slip out the back door. So, anyways, I wanted to share with you not what the problem is, because the problem we all know, I think. And if I'm wrong, correct me if I'm wrong. After we leave, you can bring it up and talk about it. But the Rabbi Schechter was not to talk about what the problem is. The Rabbi Schechter is talking about the answer. So I wanted to share with you an answer that I thought of when it comes to Sukkos and when it comes to Zman Simchaseinu. And maybe we'll tie it back in. I don't know what the official program was meant to be. I think we don't have to over here.
You are the.
Oh, look at that! I'm not supposed to have the time. So the story, the idea, and the answer that I wanted to share with you goes like this. It's an appropriate story because it's a story of the Marash. It's a story of the Frierdiker Rebbe was Yosef. It's Yosef. It's Yosef and Tzaddik, but the Frierdiker Rebbe was named after Yosef. So the story goes like this: the Frierdiker Rebbe writing to a Chassid Mordechai Dubin, and he writes to him a story that goes like this. I was once sent on a shlichus by my father, the Rebbe Rashab. My father sent me on a shlichus into the town, into the city, to do something for a Jew. He didn't spell out what it was, but he says, I went and I did it. And I did it faithfully. And when I came home, I told my father, I did what you asked me to do. I did him a favor. And the Frierdiker Rebbe says, whatever he was supposed to do, I don't know what he was supposed to do. He was supposed to buy him a bottle of Farbrengen wine. He bought him, 10%. He bought him a Herzog. He bought him Barkan. He bought him, what's a good wine? I don't know. Chevron Heights, right? Who knows the what's it called? Isaac's Ram. He bought him the fancy. He was supposed to give him $50. He gave him $1,000 from his own pocket. Whatever he did. He said, I did him a toiva and I did it with a hitter. The Rebbe Rashab was so on point. There's so many stories like this where the Rebbe Rashab, with chinuch, the Frierdiker Rebbe grabbed something, and it makes you uncomfortable. But on the other hand, it teaches you something. So the Rebbe Rashab said to the Frierdiker Rebbe, "No, it was gemacht tois. You made a mistake. What's your mistake?" He says, "You didn't do him a favor. You did yourself a favor." That's what he says. And he says, I want to tell you a story. So he tells the Frierdiker Rebbe, I got to tell you the story. And the story goes like this. My father, the Rebbe Marash, who knows the Rebbe Marash? What was he involved in that actually, we just had his yard site a couple of days ago, right? What was his yard site? Yud Gimel Tishrei, right? Why was his yard site? Why was his yard site? Why was his yard site Yud Gimel Tishrei? Because this was the plan. And he's a tzaddik, and he decided. But why did he decide Yud Gimel Tishrei? Anyone knows? I don't know why Yud Gimel Tishrei. There is an explanation, but I don't think we have time for that right now. But there is an explanation why it was in the year. Who knows when the Rebbe Marash was nostalgic? When did he pass away? Tough. If the men have to know, because we're supposed to buy the sword and put on the shelf. So the Rebbe Marash was my morim, spinach and lamates mem. And the Rebbe Rashab's Maimorim started in Taf Reish Mem. But the Maimorim from Taf Reish Mem until Nun Gimel, very, very small and short. Because the Rebbe Rashab, people don't know this. The Rebbe, how old was he when the Rebbe Marash passed away? 21, I think, if I'm not mistaken. And he didn't accept the Rebbe 13 years. The Frierdiker Rebbe writes, it's a whole story. He barely said Maimorim. There are Maimorim, but he didn't say them in public. He said them to Chassidim. He said them in private. The Frierdiker Rebbe writes, tough. I'm quite sure it's Nun Gimel. If I'm not, look it up another time. But I think it was Nun Gimel. He writes, my father came in for Rosh Hashanah, and he walked into the Zal, and this is in Lubavitch. And he walked into the Zal, and he walked to the corner, and he sat down in my grandfather's spot. He sat down in the Rebbe Marash's chair. And he says, then we knew he accepted the Rebbe. That's when he accepted being the Rebbe. How long is that? 13 years. 13 years. Why? Many reasons. One of the reasons why is because he said, my father became Rebbe someone said that passed away when he was in his 80s. I want to say 70. I think it's his 80s. One of the only Rebbes. He was the only other Rebbe that outlived his Rebbe. He was 83 maybe. And the Rebbe Marash was 40 years old, I think. He wasn't a 20-year-old man. The Frierdiker Rebbe was how old? The Frierdiker Rebbe was born in Tav Reish in Shnas Kisra, and he became Rebbe in not in Kisra, in Tav Reish Mem, in Tav Reish Mem, the same year, right before the Marash passed away, I think, right after that, and he became Rebbe 30, 40 years later. It was 30, 40 years, I think he was 40 years old. Yeah, he was 40 years old, because he lived 10 years in Russia, 10 years in Lithuania, 10 years in Poland, and 10 years in America. And the other Rebbeim, they were old, they were grown. They were not younger lights. The Rebbe Rashab said, when my father passed away, I was not ready. I wasn't yet done with my chinuch. His chinuch of being a Rebbe. And we know there's stories about how the Rebbe Marash was mechanech the Rebbe Rashab. He used to learn with him in the middle of the night, 3 o'clock in the morning, so that the Razah wouldn't be jealous, that his older brother shouldn't feel it. But they learned what? The whole story about the neshama. He told him the source of his neshama when he was a young boy, and he told him, your neshama is a neshama close, and one day you're going to be a Rebbe. And he says, from that day, a pain shot down from my head to my leg, and the whole rest of my life, that pain never left. But anyways, when he passed away, he says, I'm not ready, I'm not done. I haven't cooked yet. I'm not fully cooked. It's like the cholent that's not ready for Shabbos. So he spent another 13 years, and there's many stories. He spent another 13 years having yechidus. There's stories of him sitting once the Frierdiker Rebbe got stuck in the office, and he saw his father having yechidus with the Rebbe Marash, and he was terrified. He didn't move. They couldn't find him for 6 hours. The Rebbetzin found him after the Rebbe Rashab was long gone. Frierdiker Rebbe was standing there like a stone, frozen stiff. From pachad, from fear, because he saw the Rebbe Rashab with his hat and his gartel, his strimel, having yechidus with his father after his father had passed away. So, anyways, why did the Rebbe Marash pass away so young? He was Moshe Nefesh to defeat the pogroms. He was Moshe Nefesh to stop the pogroms. So, this is one of those stories of the pogroms. The Rebbe Marash had many times he had to deal with the pogroms, and he learned how to deal with them, but ultimately he had to give his life. So he passed away in Tav Reish Mem because of the pogroms. So this was one of those stories that he had to give over. So he went to try and stop the pogroms, and the Frierdiker Rebbe writes, at this time he already knew well and good what he was up to, and he knew how to stop them. So he went to work with the diplomatic channels that he had. And we all know that this is all just kalim. Like the story on Purim is that the whole story with Esther, the real geula came about because the Yidden did tshuva, because Mordechai aroused the Jews to do tshuva, and they learned Torah, and they learned Torah b'mesiras nefesh, and they told Haman go get pfeifen. Because of that, the story with Esther worked. So the Rebbe Marash did his aveda, I promise you. And whatever aveda needed to be done, the derech hateva, he went and spoke to the ministers. And they told him that we can stop it, but as a token of respect, and a good way to stop this one would be if you come with there's a bunch of very choshev Jews, important Jews and businessmen, bureaucrats with a lot of money and very impressive people, and you should invite them to come with you and to visit the minister and the head of the Senate. That's what he said. The whatever minister and the head of the Senate, Rosh Senate, he writes. And if they come with you, it'll be kovidik for the minister, and that'll stop the pogrom. Fine. So Rebbe Marash says no problem. So he calls together these chevre, and the Rebbe Rashab says these chevre knew my father very well, and they didn't like him. Why? Because you can imagine how much respect he had for them. Forgive me, I'm a Balchuv. I grew up with it. Them's one of them self-hating Jews. You ever heard this line? Okay. These were the Jews. They brandished their money, not their Jewishkeit, not their Yiddishkeit. So he gathered them together in his hotel, and he says the name of the hotel. He gathered them together, and he tells them, "Here's the story. Listen up. You have a job, and you have to come with me, and we have to go to speak to the Rosh Hashanah and the ministers, and we're going to stop the pogroms. So one of these very respectable Yidden stands up, and he says, "Excuse me, Rebbe Milubavitch, Rabbiner, Mr. Rabbi from Lubavitch. If we are important, you will consult with us on all matters. We are not pawns. If we are not important to you, then we are not going to join you when you need us. Consult for all matters, and not just when you need us. So no, thank you. We're not interested." Marash didn't lose a beat, and he said right away, quoted the pasuk from the Megillah, and he said, "Quiet, and you don't join me. The Yeshua, Geula is going to come from the Yidden from somewhere else. Like the Mordechai said to Esther, if you don't stand up now, God's going to save the Jewish people. You're being given an opportunity. If you don't take that opportunity, the Eivishter is not going to be in trouble, I promise. The Eivishter is not going to be down and out. And he says, I am not going to be down and out. Because he represents the Eivishter. The Rebbe once said ich. The Rebbe rarely said ich. That's another story. The Rebbe almost never said ich. There's a story once. Beautiful story. Fine. He says, I won't have any trouble. And the Eivishter will not have any trouble solving this problem for the Jews. I'm giving you a chance. If you don't join me, you're finished. And that's what happened. These people did not join him because they took it personally. And then Marash took care of it however he did, and the situation solved itself. And you can imagine what happened to these people. It didn't work out well for them. Certainly not the one who stood up and made the big speech. So the Rebbe Rashab says, my dear son, it was gemacht a toys. You made a mistake. You did him a favor. You didn't do him a favor. You did yourself a favor. The Eivishter has many. This Jew had what's coming to him. The Eivishter did you the good favor of the schus. The favor was for you. You were given the opportunity to help this person. You were given the opportunity to help this person. That's your schus. But it was your favor for yourself because it's a schus that you got. So this is what he said. So this is what I thought when it comes to Zman, Simchaseinu, and Amud. I'm going to share one more thought that to tie it all back together that I think will make it palatable, that I think it'll make it more relevant for us going forward and taking it into the year, is that when it comes to Simchaseinu, when it comes to a Farbrengen, when you're asked by a friend to come and Farbrengen in an environment where you're not so comfortable, you're not doing anyone a favor except yourself. Because whatever you're meant to hear tonight, whatever inspiration you're meant to get, I can't give you, and I can give you, but only if I show up. I can't cause you not to get it. Whatever happens to you, whatever you're meant to hear, you're gonna hear, regardless of how much I show up or I don't. Whatever you're meant to hear, you're gonna get. So whatever simcha that is meant to be out there in the street is going to be there. Whatever the Rebbe wants out of his Chassidim, whatever the street is supposed to do. I saw today a sikha where the Rebbe was speaking about the Rechoiv has to dance. The street has to dance. The Rebbe has many shluchim. And we know, because whatever time you show up, there's people there. You weren't the first one. You're not the last. Because there's people there without you. And when you show up, you think you make a difference. I promise you do. It's another Farbrengen, and we can talk about it. And don't get nervous, and you're all very important. But I have a line in my office. You're very special, but you're not special. And every now and then, you get to hear the other line, which is you're not special, but you're special. That happens. The Weisses have been there. But you don't worry. It's very, very special that you show up. But you shouldn't forget that when you go, you're not doing the Rebbe a favor. You're doing yourself a favor. By showing up for Simchas Beis HaShoeva, by going out of your comforts, by coming to eat sushi in the sukkah, you're doing yourself a favor. You're doing me a favor because I don't have to eat it. If you left it there, I would have eaten it. And then I'd be worried about the Alter Rebbe. Whatever it is, for those who were here at the beginning, then I would feel like not a mensch. Baruch Hashem, you're certainly allowed. So, anyways, you're doing yourself a favor. So this is the story that I wanted to share. And this is my thought of what perhaps the answer is that, and the solution is in terms of the simcha and the what do I do if I'm not in the mood. And I want to share with you one last thought that I think will inspire you going forward, I hope. And it'll put all of this into context, specifically now with the Avodah of Simcha. Because what we just spoke is wonderful, but it's a klolistic of art. It's a klolistic of art about how do I push myself when I'm not in the mood. Because I realize whatever it is that I'm meant to be doing right, whatever mifsoyim I was supposed to go on, whatever sicha I was supposed to learn, whatever phone call I was supposed to make. I actually had a mashpia tell me once. I felt like I was out of yeshiva and I felt like I'm just doing what I was in koilo. And I told him all I ever do is I do what I want to do. I learn what I want to learn. I stay up when I want to stay up. I sleep when I want to sleep. I do whatever. I was a younger man and before I had kids. It's very exciting. And you feel like a big bold type because you only do what you want to do. You're very chassidish. You just start feeling like you're very selfish because you only do what you want to do. That's the story about that. Sorry. So I felt like a big bold type. And I remember I called him my mashpia and I said to him, I only learn what I want to learn. I only farbrengen when I want to farbrengen. And I stay up all night when I want. I sleep when I want to sleep. And I eat when I want. And he said, Baruch Hashem. First of all, Baruch Hashem, you have good types. That was what he said. So Baruch Hashem, your type is a good Baruch Hashem. And number two, he said, don't worry, the time will come when you're going to have to wake up and smell the coffee. So that happened, believe me, didn't take long. Because we didn't make it out of Shana Rishena without those obligations. Baruch Hashem. But he also told me one practical piece of advice, which I think is very relevant for those of you. I don't know if everyone lives here or doesn't live here, where you're all up to in your life. But he said, can you think of someone you were in yeshiva with who's maybe not in prominence? He said, yeah. He said, then what is he up to? Yeah, he's living and working in another part of, in the Golis of southern Florida, and he wasn't in the matzav that I was in. He wasn't sitting learning all day, and he was in a Golis. He was in a midbar. I was in Gola. So he said, maybe you call him once a week. That was his hayra for me to push myself a little bit. Anyways, I thought it was very poignant. I realized that it can be just calling a friend. It can be. I didn't want to call him because I wanted to sit and learn. I had other things to do. I call him. I got to think every time I called him, I had to have a word to say to him. I had to come up with a sicha to say to him. I had to come up with. First of all, you don't have to. Just call him. Just to hear your voice is mechayet. I'm saying when you speak to your friends from yeshiva. But anyways, the point is, whatever it is that you're doing, that's the line in Yiddish. What you're doing, you do for yourself. And it's a famous Yiddishism. It's a famous Jewish saying. It's not exactly a positive one. Which means what you do for yourself. Right? You think you're doing whatever. We're all self-interested. And I have it on good authority that the Rebbe Rashab once said, a Yid on a paniya is better, which means a Jew without an ulterior motive, it's better that he never was born. That's what he says. I didn't say it. The Rebbe Rashab said this. So an ulterior motive, it's okay. It's okay to have, to motivate yourself with self-interest. However, your self-interest should be dancing by the Sukkos basis, whereas watching the dancing, whatever girls are supposed to do, or eating sushi in the sukkah. So it's okay. You're allowed to have these self-interests, but nonetheless, potential. So anyway, that's a general hayra when you're not in the mood. And that's generally relevant to Sukkos because Sukkos is about going to the sukkah when you're not in the mood. And it's about going the whole week straight, forgive me, When I was a little boy chick, a little younger man, it was wonderful to stay up every night for Farbrengen. These days, my couch and I are big, good friends. I promise you. We get along better than the Kingston Avenue. I promise you. So once a year, Kingston Avenue has a pull. So just one thought when it comes to Sukkos and what does it mean, Simchaseinu, and you push yourself and what you're doing, you do for yourself, you're doing yourself a favor. It's this thought. So, and the beauty of this, and the reason I'm going to end on this, is that the beauty of this is that if you don't like it, you don't have to keep it, because I never saw it in a sefer. I made it up. If you do like it, you can sing my praises because I came up with it. I come up with it. It's a favor that the Eivshter gave me by putting it into my head. I think it's a nice line, and I'm pretty sure it's based on real things. But nonetheless, the story goes like this. The Rebbe speaks about Tishrei, and he calls it HaChodesh Musba Bakol. What does it mean? The month that is satiated with everything. It's a Baal Shem Tov part. And the part is from the Baal Shem Tov that it's satiated with everything, that it's a Chodesh Rosh. It's a fundamental month. It's a head month. The reason we don't bench Shabbos Mervarchim Tishrei is because the Eivshter benches Kol Tov Sela. Zat, it's full with everything. And whatever it's full with, the Rebbe spoke about Tishrei is a train where you pick up your peklach, and then throughout the year you unpack them. You don't even unpack them on Tishrei. You just fill them up. You pick up your packages at the fair, your merchandise. And the Rebbe speaks about the Sichas Rosh Hashanah and Yom Kippur. Rosh Hashanah you get for your year, you get bittul, you get making the Eivshter a king. On Yom Kippur you get for the year tshuva. You get tshuva for the year. On Simchas Torah, you get bli gvul. On Sukkos, you get simcha. The Rebbe speaks about simcha. He says, "Mamshich simcha." This is the line: "Mamshich simcha al kol hashana kula." What does that mean? It used to bother me because the Rebbe says, "Why did it bother me?" Because the Rebbe says you're bringing down simcha for the whole year. You're drawing down enough simcha for the whole year. And the line used to bother me because I don't care how happy you are. I don't care how good the Farbrengen was. The inspiration lasts for how long? Right? I had a rabbi in yeshiva. He says people like to taina, they like to claim and argue that you shouldn't get excited because excitement is like a kindling, and kindling is like straw. It lights up very fast and then it's out. Right? You have to heat up the logs. That's the real avodah. You have to work hard. You have to learn b'yekiyah. You have to daven hard. Whatever it is, you have to put in the work, and that's true. But he said you don't do it because it wears off. He says you shower every day, don't you? That also wears off. Certainly, Simchas Beis Shvei, it's not even a day. It wears off very quickly. We went to the farm. Between the farm and Simchas Beis Shvei, believe me, there's more than enough reasons to shower on a couple of times over Sukkos. So, and the mikveh doesn't count for the men. I promise you, it doesn't help. But I don't care how excited you get, it wears off. I don't care how besimcha you are on Sukkos, it wears off. You may have a geschmack at rest of Tishrei, but as soon as Beis Cheshvan hits, and you're saying Tachnun, and it's rain, and it's Mar Cheshvan, it's bitter, it's cold, it's wet. Believe me, Yutes Kislev is a very long time away. Chodesh Kislev is a very long time away. Cheshvan is long. Cheshvan is a slug. Cheshvan is tough. Tavis after Kislev is tough. There are times where you go through loads, and you're supposed to. That's part of life, and that's real avodah. So, what does it mean you draw down simcha for the whole year? This is what bothered me. So I thought about it, and this is what I came up with. And take it or leave it. What does it mean you're drawing down simcha for the whole year? The Rebbe speaks Rosh Hashanah, and we speak about Talmud and Lechem, Bittul, and Kabbalas Earl, and Tillim. But what does the Welt speak about? Parnasa, life, health. It's Gashmis. At the end of the day, Rosh Hashanah is about Gashmis. Ruchnis is another time. Ruchnis is really more about Pesach, in terms of your Gezeda for Ruchnis. But nonetheless, Rosh Hashanah, upon him on the surface level, is about your physical sustenance for the year. So there's a question in Chassidus that's brought, why do we daven 3 times a day asking for parnas? Wasn't everything fixed on Rosh Hashanah? So how could I daven Baruch Aleinu? It's a waste of time. It's silly. It doesn't make sense. And this is actually a machloikis brought in the Gemara. And the answer Chassidus brings is because there is what you get and how you get it. So what you get comes down on Rosh Hashanah. How you get it comes down throughout the year, based on your sukkos, based on how much you worked during, how much you davened on those particular days. So whether you meant to get $5, $100, or $100,000, the Eibshter decided Rosh Hashanah, Chutz and Shabbos and Yom Tov. And apart from tzedakah, whatever you're supposed to get, you got. So why bother davening the rest of the year? Because when you live in New York, that money could go to parking tickets, or that money could go to Farbrengen. Said the Chutz from Shabbos and Yom Tov. That money could go to food for your kids. That's tzedakah. Okay. Apart from, it could go to good things, or it could go to doctor's visits. Once a year, well visits, okay? Once a year is okay. You're allowed to go once a year. I tell people you have to go to the doctor. Your kids don't. The doctor has to make a living. Your kids don't have to be sick. Okay, you can go once a year for well visits, and the doctors will make a living. Don't worry. If chas v'shalom you don't go for your well visits, so maybe the Eibshter is going to come up with a way to bring you into the doctor's office. I don't want to say such things. I don't know. I don't want to speak. You can ask the license there. Come for your well visit. It's good. It's good. We'll schmooze. We have Farbrengen. It's okay. We don't charge. Insurance. Everyone is medicated in New York. It's wonderful. But everything is decided at the beginning of the year. But how it comes down is up to you later. But nonetheless, in the same vein, I wanted to come back. Everything is decided from the beginning of the year, which means, in my understanding, this is what it means. You're not so besimcha that you stay besimcha for an extra 3 months. You stay besimcha halfway through Cheshvan. You stay besimcha all the way until Shvat. It's not happening. It's silly. It's tipshus. It's foolish. It doesn't make sense. Why? Because you get one bad night of sleep and you're grumpy, right? Good Farbrengen. If your kids wake you up too early the next day, it's hard to hold on to that inspiration. Okay. So what's pshat? Pshat is that you're filling up your bank account. Your bank account for Simcha is being filled up here and now. You have 7 days. The Eibshter is very kind. It's not the 2 days of Rosh Hashanah. Tshuva, you only need a few minutes. Tshuva, you only need Yom Kippur 1 day. Rosh Hashanah, Parnasa, you need 24, 48 hours. Sukkos, you get 7 days. 7 days of Simcha. And Nachmer, Torah, B'li Simcha. You're filling up your bank account with Simcha for the whole year. Which means what? Which means in the middle of Tavis, when I get a parking ticket, how am I supposed to be with Simcha? Number one, I have to daven, and I have to work on that particular day about being besimcha. That's what we said. We have to daven every day, despite your parnas from the year before, from Rosh Hashanah. But the deposit that's in the bank that you have to withdraw, you drew down on Sukkos. When? By sitting another few minutes by the Farbrengen, by staying another few minutes by Sukkos Tishrei, by pushing yourself to go out of your comfort zone, to sit in the sukkah when it's raining. To go on the soyim, to push yourself. All the avedas of Sukkos is about going outside of yourself. It's not easy. Pesach is gewaltig. My shliach goes on vacation. Pesach. Why? After the Seder, there's no mitzvah. There's nothing to do. Can't wear tefillin. Matzahs everybody ate already, and no one's taking matzah on day 3. They don't even know it's Pesach anymore. Right? Halavai, the first, they come for the second Seder. The Israelis don't even show up. There's no mivsoyim. Shavuos is 2 days Yom Tov and Torah and ice cream. My shliach goes on vacation. Sukkos, the whole time you gotta go. You gotta sit in the sukkah and you gotta go to mivsoyim and you gotta go to Simchas Beis HaShoev. It's exhausting. I'm not in the mood. Leave me alone. I was in the mood yesterday. You want me to go again today? I took my kids last night. What do I have to take them again? I'm not gonna say who said it, but one of them said, "I'm going myself tonight." Someone in my house. I'm not saying who said it. I'm going myself tonight. I took the kids last night. Finished. I'm exhausted. I don't have any more money left. The tchotchke. My feet are not walking anymore. I'm done. I'm exhausted. My head is killing. Whatever it is. So, anyways, Yediyah Samach LaChetzi Rufuasi. knowing the problem is half the answer. And the other half of the answer is Farbrengen. The other half of the answer is to realize when you're pushing yourself on Sukkos, when you're being besimcha on Sukkos, what are you doing? You're not doing someone else a favor, you're doing yourself a favor. And you're really not that interested, push yourself an extra few minutes. Why? Because those few minutes that Ramban brings in Tanya, the Alter Rebbe brings in Tanya about Yisurim, about Tshuva and Yisurim and Eilam Hazeh, when the sun moves, the shade moves the tiniest little bit, but the sun moves thousands of miles. So when you push yourself another few seconds, another few minutes, another few hours, another day on Sukkos, the Reva v'Hatzola Yama the Yehudim, the salvation and Geula and Simcha that's going to be shared with you and available for you for the rest of the year will be so much more than you put in, so much more than you realized, so much more than you ever thought possible. And the trick is, you're not even going to know. I promise you. I promise you. That's why you need to know now. Because in the middle of Tavis, number one, it's too late. And number two, you're not going to realize that you're happy now because of Sukkos. You're not. But at the end of the day, push yourself now, because the payout, the Eivishter, God does not remain in debt. The Eivishter bleibt nicht kein Balchayv. God does not remain in debt. So God willing, Mitzvah Shem, it should be successful. I don't know what's meant to happen now, but I think I'm meant to cut out. So L'chaim and L'rocha, it should be with success. It should be with Simcha. It should be with a little bit of Reiskin von sich. You should go outside of yourself, but remember, was man tut für sich. You're doing yourself a favor. God, in His great kindness, gave us the opportunity to do ourselves favors over and over again. And that's really the favor that every Jew has, is that when we do something, it's not for our own indulgence, it's for our own good. When we do something, it's really for our own good, and it will stand by us, and it will be with incredible hatzlacha. That's the other thing that we know, is that a Jew, all he has to do is go. Right? You have to go. And when you go, things happen. You got to show up. You got to stop and be introduced, and you got to put the microphone on. Things happen. So,
there's two parts now. Part number one is we have a tradition at Living Chassidus that we take a selfie with our Farbrengen. You're up for that? Sure. We're gonna just this way. Everybody here. What?
Your face is.
There we go. And the second part is that on behalf of all of us, thank you so much for your Torah, for your forgiving of Yatzim and So I want to thank you, and on behalf of all of us, we want to give you
I don't have to buy him one.
all the learning that you do, and I guess Mendel will do. You'll have a sender.
Yes.
Oh, yes. Uh-oh. We'll stop on here.
Wait, okay. 10 o'clock.
It's coming. I do have